I think this week highlights the contrast between the virtues of Bitcoin and the vices of crypto. And it illustrates the wisdom of Satoshi. So if we go back to first principles, the entire Bitcoin movement got started because of a loss of faith in the currency and a loss of faith in banks. And so this has gone on since time immemorial. Banking crisis that froze customers' funds and currency crisis that collapsed their purchasing power. And Bitcoin was created as a currency that couldn't be debased, running on an open network so you could be your own bank. And the principle is, if you're your own bank and no one has discretion to debase the currency, then you're not going to wake up one morning and find out that your funds have been seized and they've been devalued to zero. Crypto and the entire movement is almost like the reinvention of fiat currency and fractional reserve banking, but instead of it being in a regulated environment, it's just in an unregulated environment. So ironically, we saw the same human behaviors here. A human being creates a wildcat bank, unregulated, to carry the burden of a billion people's money. Then you realize that the solution is put the control of that into the hands of nature. Submit yourself to nature's laws and to the laws of mathematics, and then put it into the hands of a software that's not just a software program running on a machine, but a software protocol running on millions of machines. And so if you can create a fair, equitable, trustworthy, rational software protocol, if you can release it as a virus to millions of machines and hundreds of millions of people, you have a chance. You have an opportunity. It may work. And Bitcoin is the first example of a successful monetary protocol that was released. And in the first year or 2 or 3 years, it could have been smoshed out of existence or could have failed. And now we're fortunate enough to actually see that it has grown to maturity and it is working. And it is the best choice in this crypto carnage. And for those who have clear vision and they can see through the sound and the fury and the chaos, they'll see that Satoshi was wiser than they realized. Satoshi said something, very seminal at the very beginning of this entire movement. But you can also look at it as we succeeded because we got the most number of people and the most amount of money to adopt Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin is still the dominant crypto asset network in terms of number of holders, in terms of value, and in terms of the amount of value stored on the chain. And so although we haven't convinced 100% of the people to agree with us, we've convinced the most of the people to agree with us. And this week is another educational lesson. And I, as a newcomer to the space, I've only been in it for about 2.5 years, I observe that we are making great headway with mainstream investors and mainstream media. And we're also making great headway with the crypto bros and all the crypto degens, everyone that said, I got to trade this altcoin or I got to trade on that or I need leverage. And they made fun of the Bitcoin maximalist and the ones that want to self-custody. And I think that now you won't find anybody in the crypto industry that would make fun of Bitcoin's principled approach. Right. And I think that if you go on CNBC and you look at the conversations are clearly and the like. And to give an entitlement or access to the dollar to people in Argentina or Cuba or North Korea or Nigeria where they're without. And so there are probably 1 to 2 billion people in the world that have access to the dollar through the 20th century banking system. There are 6 billion people in the world that do not have access to the dollar. They are disenfranchised, they are unbanked, and they are suffering. So there has been a demand for that digital dollar. It manifested itself in the growth of Tether and Circle. That idea, right, looks a little bit degenerate to someone on the Upper East Side of New York City who's a trust fund baby with a JP Morgan account. But if you're living in Nigeria and the banks can't be trusted and the government devalued your currency and you're looking at starving to death, or the same in Venezuela, that dollar looks to you like a lifeline, and that is really critical for you. So the crypto industry, has spread that dollar and it's moved on crypto rails. It's moved on networks like Tron or Ethereum. Unfortunately, it hasn't moved on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So the idea is a good idea, give billions of people the dollar, right? The execution is a bad execution. Let's basically use unregistered security and centralized crypto networks to give them the dollar. And finally, a fourth idea is just property rights. If you own Apple stock, a bunch of it, your bank is able to loan that Apple stock out and get a yield on it, but just not for you. You don't, right? So $1 million of assets sitting in a conventional bank is the bank's assets, and they get benefits from it, but you don't get benefits from it. So the 20th century conventional banking system is constructed to work part-time for its own benefit. And the idea of a digital exchange would be you ought to be able to hold your own assets, get the yield on your own assets, trade and transfer your own assets whenever you want, and do it at the speed of light and do it 1,000 times faster and quicker. So that's another innovation. The last innovation is a digital token. It exploded as NFTs in the crypto world. Okay, the idea that's the ethical idea is you're an artist, a musician, and an actor or an athlete, and you wish to monetize your brand. Right? Once upon a time, you have music rights, you want to sell the music rights, a Solana or an Ethereum or a something. And the problem is those are all unregistered securities, right? And so if you could take those ideas and you could put them on the Bitcoin network, on Lightning. Bitcoin is ethical because it's an asset without an issuer. Lightning is ethical because it is an open protocol, and the fees that run it are Satoshis. And Satoshis are, of course, ethical money. So if you had an open, fair protocol running on an ethical money, and then you gave tokens to creators, and you gave dollars to people in Africa that would otherwise starve, or they're locked out of the world economy without dollars, and if you gave them Bitcoin as the digital scarcity asset, and if you gave them access to these DeFi ideas and exchanges 24/7, 365, but it was ethical, right? Not only, that's the first check, it's got to be ethical. The second check is it's got to be technically sound. Lightning's technically sound. You could support billions of people and do billions of transactions a day.